Check 1, 2. It's been a long time. Okay, welcome back, wildlings. It's been a long time. I think about a year, in fact. Sorry about that. Personal issues, coronavirus, various things. I've not been able to film any wildlife videos, but I wanted to reassure you I still have a passion for making wildlife documentaries, and they will continue this year. Between now and summer, nothing. After summer, something. I can assure you of that, something. I'll tell you where I've been, because I'm sure all 49 of the wildlings have been extremely worried about me, my whereabouts. So at the end of March, I was in Indonesia. I came back because coronavirus was shutting the world down. I stayed at home for a few months, I think about 2 months, just working a little bit. Then I went to Tenerife to train to become a freediving instructor. I was there for 4 months training at a school called Apnea Canarias, a very good school. I highly recommend going training there if you are in Europe and you wanted to do some freediving training or learn how to freedive. After that, I came back for Christmas and I've been at home since. I can't really do anything at the moment because of coronavirus. I've been working on a couple of other little projects. One thing, if you're not a native English speaker, I don't know if you can see it, I've made a new channel. It's called English Animated. It's for helping people learn English. I used to be an English teacher before I stopped being an English teacher. And I've been making some animated videos. I hope you're all doing well. Let me know. Well, I don't know how you're going to do that. You could say something in the comments. But I think, to be honest, most of my subscribers are like close friends and family, so I probably already know how you are. But if you're not, then let me know. Oh, and you might have noticed that the name of the channel has changed and the logo's changed. That is a personal decision I've made because I wanted to make documentaries about diving and wildlife, not about me. And I want the name of the channel to reflect that. So I decided to change the name. No big deal. I haven't decided what the name's going to be yet. I'm going to decide that between making this video and uploading this video. So I can't say what it is right now, but it's going to be different and it's not going to have my name in it. I'm hoping to keep the word wild in it because one of my favourite things about this channel is being able to call subscribers wildlings. So it's definitely going to still have wild in it. Anyway, today what we're doing is I'm going to look at some movie scenes, some underwater movie scenes, and I'm going to say how realistic I think they are based on what I've learned from freediving. So specifically underwater movie scenes where it's somebody holding their breath or diving or something like that. And the first scene we have is a scene from James Bond Skyfall. And he's on a frozen lake. And I'm going to put in my earphones so I can hear it and get the full experience without messing up my audio recording. Maybe we can use the big boys. Big boys aren't working, so let's try the little pink boys. Right, I guess I'm watching it without sound because I can't have the sound from that coming through this. It's going to ruin the recording. You failed me. You all failed me. So we got James Bond on the ice. Gun pointed at him. Not ideal. Takes the gun, shoots in the ice. Oh, in they go. That's got to be cold. Gun falls away. And they're sinking fast. Very fast. Villain walks away too soon before he confirms the kill. Typical. James Bond's struggling, fighting underwater. Using a lot of energy, which means he's using a lot of oxygen. That guy exhales all of his air as he goes unconscious. James Bond's looking around, thinking, how do I get out? And then he's swimming down. Why would you swim down? He's getting something. Getting a torch? A flare. A flare? Why would he get a flare? Scene ends. Okay, so let's just go back a little bit to some specific moments. So, they both sink really fast. The heavy object, which is the gun, falls away immediately. We can see that, which means they're left with their clothes and whatever they've got in their pockets, a belt or something like that. Now, clothes and shoes and stuff like that are not necessarily very negatively buoyant. The thing is, a human body floats on the surface provided there's air in the lungs. If you exhale all the air from your lungs, then yes, you will sink. But I got the impression that James Bond knew what he was about to do and therefore would probably take a deep breath before he went in. So really, they shouldn't have immediately sunk. Now, when you start to descend in the water, the water pressure builds and starts compressing the air spaces in your body. At around 10 meters, it gets compressed. All those air spaces get compressed enough so that your total volume, your total the mass, your total mass is heavier than what the equivalent mass would be of water. So that's why you start sinking at around 10 meters. I'm not sure if I explained that very well, but basically, what you need to take away from this: between 0 and 10 meters, you're going to float. Okay, if you've got a full lung of air, below 10 meters, you'll start to sink. But anyway, maybe they're wearing really heavy stuff. Maybe they've got pockets full of bullets. So next thing is, as they're in the water, underwater, they're struggling and fighting a lot. And when you're holding your breath, the currency is oxygen. The more of it you use, the sooner you're going to black out and drown. The less of it you use, the more time you have. So if you're doing something that requires a lot of energy, like fighting someone, kicking and strangling and stuff like that, you're going to be wasting a lot of oxygen and energy. But there's no reason to say that. I mean, you could do it. Someone could do that if they were trained and fit like James Bond. They could fight and hold their breath underwater. But he's got to the point now where he has used a lot of energy, therefore used a lot of oxygen. But instead of swimming up, he chooses to swim down to go for a flare gun. This is where it gets unbelievable, where it's unrealistic, because in that situation, you need to immediately get to the surface. Any trained freediver at that point, after exerting so much energy, will be on the brink of unconsciousness from lack of oxygen. So he goes down, he gets the flare gun and he fires it up, I'm assuming in the hope that somebody is now going to come and dive in and rescue him. So let me tell you a bit about what when we go freediving. When you freedive, you always freedive in at least 2 people. And the reason we do that is so that when one diver goes down to their target depth, they start to come back up, the other diver acts as the safety diver. And that safety diver comes down and meets up with the diver on their ascent at about 1/3 of the depth. So if the diver went down to 30 meters, the safety diver meets the diver at 10 meters. And then they go up together to the surface. We do it like this, coming up together, because if there's a problem, the safety diver needs to respond immediately. As soon as there's something wrong with the diver, he needs to be ready to act. And if that diver goes unconscious, the safety diver needs to be ready to grab him immediately, take him to the surface and resuscitate him. In this case, James Bond obviously doesn't have a safety diver. He's gone down to the bottom to fire a flare to be rescued later. And there's no one there. No one's going to come in, dive down to the bottom, grab him out of there, find him in the dark. It's just not gonna happen. So, believability rating of this scene, I'm gonna give it 6. 5. 5 because the fight could have happened. It could have sunk if they were wearing heavy stuff, had loads of heavy stuff in their pockets. It just gets unbelievable. It just gets very unbelievable when he swims down to get the flare instead of firing up. He would have died 100%. Hypothermia and drowning would have happened within probably 2 minutes. He would have been unconscious within 30 seconds at least, and he would have been dead within a few minutes. Next scene is a scene from Lost, Season 3, Episode 21. I've also seen Lost, but I watched it years ago, so I can't remember what happens. But I know Charlie's going to dive to try and find something. Right, here we go. Right, he's got a bag of rocks, I'm assuming for negative buoyancy. Very smart if you're trying to do a deep dive. Calm, dive, in he goes. With his bag of rocks, a few kicks. I wouldn't bother with the kicks, to be honest. I'll just let the rocks do the work. There's the station. That visibility is amazing. Looks like he's spitting out air as he goes down, which is not a good idea. Okay, he's reached target depth, drops the rocks, and then suddenly goes flying up. Oh, he's convulsing, spitting air out. That's never a good sign if the diver is losing air. It means they're very close to blacking out. More air. Oh, he's found his entrance. And get out. And he's out. Right, let's see. So let's go back a little bit. First of all, where James Bond failed, Lost has succeeded. So he's used a belt with loads of rocks tied to it to create negative buoyancy, which is going to save a hell of a lot of energy and a hell of a lot of oxygen on your dive. What he's done is in freediving, what we call a variable weight dive. So a variable weight dive is when you use a weight to get down to the target depth, then you release the weight and you go up, you go back to the surface either swimming or kicking or something like that. And it saves a lot of energy because you burn so much energy and oxygen in the first 5 to 10 meters because you're really positively buoyant, so you have to kick a lot. But once you get past that, once you get past that area of positive buoyancy, we go to a point what we call the free fall in freediving, and that's when you stop moving, you stop kicking, you stop swimming with your arms, and you just relax your body and you let the negative buoyancy just take you down to the target depth. So you essentially just sinking. A lot of people, for a lot of freedivers, that's the best part of the dive. And then when you get down to the target depth, you turn around and swim back up. But Charlie's basically used those rocks so he can turn the entire descent into a free fall. And if you can do that, if you're going to descend like that, you could very realistically spend much more time underwater than doing the dive than he did. So that there's no issue with that. The next thing, well, actually, what we need to do really, we need to know how deep this is supposed to be. So let's just check on. Right, so we've got two answers. One answer says the Looking Glass station was 70 meters. Another answer says 18 meters. So we're going to go with the conservative 18 meters because 70 meters will be impossible, and for an untrained freediver like that. So first of all, we need to understand what happens to our body or the airspaces under pressure, because 18 meters is enough to feel significant pressure from the water. Basically what happens is the further you go down in water, the further you descend, the greater the pressure is. Now at the surface we have 1 bar or 1 atmosphere of pressure, and then every 10 meters we have another bar of pressure. I'm going to do a little animation here so you can see what I'm talking about while I'm talking. If you go from the surface to 10 meters, you've gone from 1 bar to 2 bar, which means the pressure has doubled. So if the pressure doubles, it means the volume of air in your body is halved. The volume of air, or the amount that the air is compressed, is relative to the amount of pressure you experience. So from surface to 10 meters, you've increased the pressure 2 times. You've gone from 1 bar to 2 bar. From 0 meters to 20 meters, you've gone from 1 bar to 3 bar. So the pressure has been tripled. So from 0 to 20 meters, if the pressure's tripled, the volume of air in your body is reduced by 3 times. So let's say you have 6 liters of air in your lungs at the surface. If you go down to 20 meters, you're going to have 2 liters of air in your lungs. Okay, because it gets compressed, and you can feel that. They say in freediving that when it starts to feel like an elephant stood on your chest, that's when you're going deep. So when that air compresses in your lungs, it's not such a big problem because your lungs are quite flexible. However, there are more air spaces in your body than just the lungs. There are also air spaces in your sinuses and in your middle ear. And unlike the lungs, those air spaces have to be equalized. Because as the pressure builds and the volume of air reduces in your middle ear, your eardrums start to get sucked in. You've probably felt this sensation if you've been to the bottom of a swimming pool. It's the same thing, but obviously when you're diving deep, it's much greater. The pressure's much greater. And what we do to equalize that pressure is we pinch our nose, close our mouth, and we try and blow air through our nose, through a pinched nose. And because it can't escape through the nose or the mouth, it escapes through the eustachian tubes and goes into the middle ear and the sinuses. And by doing that, we force more air into those air spaces and equalize the pressure. But Charlie didn't do that. He didn't do that once. So what would have happened is at around 10 meters maybe, or even less, his eardrums would have ruptured and he would have arrived at the Looking Glass station temporarily or permanently deaf, because you can't go down to 20 meters without equalizing and also without destroying your eardrums. Then the other thing is, so when he gets to his target depth, he drops his bags of stones and suddenly shoots upwards. Now, if you remember what I told you when we looked at the last scene, below 10 meters, you sink, even without the stones. Below 10 meters, a human body will sink. So what would have actually happened in real life is he would have dropped the bag of stones, he would have slowed down a little bit, but he would have continued descending. As he's starting to run out of air, he starts losing air through his mouth. This can happen at the very last stages of a breath hold, when you start to lose control of certain functions. And then he gets there. But apart from that, it's quite good. So, believability, we're going to give this definitely more than James Bond. We're going to give it a 6.5. I really like the attention to detail with the weights, using the weights to sink quickly. That's realistic. Also, bonus point, because a place like this does actually exist. It's called the Aquarius Laboratory, and I think it's in Florida. And they use that laboratory to do experiments. We'll give it a 6 points. We'll give it a 7. We'll give it a 7 for that. So, good job, Lost. I would love to go to the Aquarius Laboratory. If anyone from the Aquarius Laboratory is watching this and they would like a video done about the lab, let me know, and I'll come straight out there and do it with you. Right, next scene is Mission Impossible. So he's about to, from what I understand, he needs to get to a place, and to get there he has to go through an underwater tunnel or something. And he goes, oof, I don't know if you'd survive that fall, but that's not why we're here. We've been underwater about a minute now. He's flying through some tubes. Okay, now he's got into some circular room. Oof, he grabs the wall. He's burning a lot of energy and consuming a lot of oxygen from all this movement. Okay, he's getting something out of his pants. Oh my god, he nearly got hit. Right, we're at nearly 3 minutes now of breath hold, and he's been exerting a lot of energy. Starting to get into the realms of not believable now. Unless you're an elite freediver. Oxygen 9%. Right, okay, let's stop there for a second. So SpO2, what you can see above that number, that's oxygen saturation. Now, a normal level for a healthy human is between 96 and 99% for a healthy human that's breathing. 96 to 99%, sometimes 100% maybe if you're hyperventilating, but that's the normal range. A doctor will tell you that you're probably dead or dying if it's below 80, 85%. I'm just going to show you one thing. This is what I use to measure oxygen saturation when I'm doing breath holds. It's called a finger oximeter. This number often goes below 80, 85 when we're doing breath holds. So although a doctor might tell you you're dead or dying if it's below 85, this can go down. I've seen this as low as 60, 70% on people doing breath holds. And then when they start to breathe again, it shoots back up to 96, 99 or 99%. So once you get to around 50, 60%, that's when you're in blackout range. So once it goes below 50%, you're unconscious. You cannot have an oxygen saturation of 9% and still be conscious and swimming around like he's doing. So they probably just do that for dramatic effect. Oh my God, he's on 9%. Once he's on 0%, he dies. But in reality, once you're below 50%, you're unconscious for sure. 4 minutes of breath hold now. Oh, he's convulsing. His cheeks are shaking. Oh, and there we go. Hello, darkness, my old friend. Obviously, someone's going to save him. He's the main character. So, boom, open, saved. Okay. Right. So, the way he went unconscious there, the way he lost consciousness was very realistic because there's different stages in a breath hold. In the beginning, when you first start the breath hold, it's quite easy. You just relaxed, and then after a while, the carbon dioxide levels in your blood will get high enough to trigger the urge to breathe. And that's the first unpleasant sensation in a breath hold. As you keep going and the carbon dioxide levels build, that urge to breathe becomes stronger and stronger. And then at some point, you'll start to have muscular contractions. Usually they start around the chest area. And it's like your stomach is doing backflips. And then if you carry on holding and fighting past that point, those contractions will spread to other parts of your body, other muscles, until the point where you feel like your whole body is shaking from these muscular contractions. And then if you're still holding on, you're going past that point, you start to get into the realms of hypoxia, like very, very strong hypoxia. And once that happens, you can get what's called a loss of motor neuron control. And that's something that was happening to Tom Cruise there towards the end, and he was losing the air out of his mouth because he wasn't able to control the muscles that kept the air in. So he lost control of those muscles, and he started spitting air out. And that is something that really does really can happen in a breath hold. And then after the loss of motor neuron control, when you're in the realms of extreme hypoxia, you black out. So your body kind of goes into life save mode, and it stops certain functions that aren't absolutely necessary in that moment. And one of those functions is consciousness. It's like a ticking clock at that point. If you're not rescued and resuscitated within a few minutes, you're looking at potentially permanent brain damage. And then after that, it would just be death. So believability. Well, the way that Tom Cruise acted out the different stages of the breath hold, going from controlled to contractions to loss of motor neuron control and spitting out the air and then going unconscious, that was very realistic. I would go as far to say that he's probably done some actual real research or practice to see what it would be, because the amount of time he was holding his breath was not unrealistic. It's not unbelievable at all, actually. So the world record is 11.5 minutes, or more or less 11.5 minutes, and that's without having a pure oxygen breathe up. So that's breathing normal air before you do the breath hold, 11 minutes and 39 seconds or something like that. But with the amount of movement he was doing, it was not believable. So when like we said before, energy equals oxygen consumption when you're holding your breath. So every muscle twitch is oxygen wasted, oxygen lost, used. And he was moving a lot. He was swimming against the current, climbing up the walls, wrenching doors open. So 5 minutes doing all that stuff, that's not going to happen. But apart from that, it's pretty good. The acting was good anyway. So we'll give that not as high as Lost. We'll give it 6.5. I think that's fair. Right, so that is the last scene we're going to watch. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like this video, this kind of reaction analysis video, let me know and I'll do another one. And if you can think of any movie scenes or TV scenes where there's someone underwater, diving, holding their breath or something like that, and you want me to analyze and look at, put it in the comments and I'll check it out. Apart from that, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe.